I thank you, Honourable Presiding Member. So I would like to commence my speech today by going back to a speech that I made under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs some time back on Friday, the 3rd of December 2004. And in the course of that speech, I said this, and I quote, "The desire to draw limits on the Tamil people's right to self-determination makes the Sri Lankan state align itself with any power that is willing to play along, even to the extent of blatantly seeking the interference of superpowers that would compromise and put in jeopardy the strategic interests and security interests of India." Now, this I said in 2004, Honourable Presiding Member, and the tragedy that has befallen this country is precisely what I warned then. Now, although I warned it in 2004, it doesn't mean that Sri Lanka hadn't got hurt by this similar stupid policy earlier. In the 80s, again, because Sri Lanka would rather not solving the Tamil issue, instead to militarily try and defeat it, chose to find international partners to an extent that you chose to put India's security interests at jeopardy. You made the matter so out of control for yourselves that you eventually had to face an armed struggle for over 30 years. That struggle was not brought to an end through a negotiated settlement. It was brought to an end through, as far as we are concerned, genocide. So there has been no solution. The problem still persists. In fact, if the Tamil people who spoke of an ethnic problem from the 40s, and then eventually had to take up arms in the 70s, are now supposed to forget about the ethnic problem, actually it should be the complete opposite. The violence that the Tamil people had to face at the time they took up arms was far less than the 30 years of armed conflict, and in particular, the end of it. So can you imagine the psyche of the Tamil people? Now, last week was Great Heroes Week. There is a lot of threats, severe amount of threats to people commemorating the dead. But despite that, simply because the government was forced to say that they will not prevent commemorations, people were willing to risk whatever consequence that may come afterwards, and they thronged those areas. So what I'm trying to say is that is the psyche of the aggrieved people. So the problem has not been solved, quite the contrary, it has got probably worse. And very tellingly, Honourable Presiding Member, the Minister is here, the steps to find quote-unquote reconciliation comes under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I think that is a betrayal of the true intentions of this government. Betrayal, I say betrayal because it makes it so obvious. You see, a particular subject will come under a particular ministry where that ministry's efforts for that particular subject is going to be the greatest, I would assume. And if reconciliation comes under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it just, to me, and I'm pretty certain that is the case, means that reconciliation is only a foreign affairs matter. It is only to somehow manage the pressures that might come from foreign countries, particularly countries that have a significant Tamil diaspora presence, and nothing further. And nothing, Honorable Presiding Member, that has happened anytime recently, especially after President Ranil Wickremesinghe became president, seems to suggest otherwise. I mean, let's forget about the previous government. I think we all know how they performed on this matter. But certainly even with regards to President Ranil Wickremesinghe. So the problem has not been solved, but instead we have the Honourable Minister, after his visit to Geneva and other UN-related matters, coming to this House, saying that an important step with regards to reconciliation will be the formation of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Now, Honourable Presiding Member, and I think both the President and the Foreign Minister have also mentioned the South African example. The President of South Africa, who happened to be in transit here, when his birthday was apparently celebrated, in the media, this matter was again brought to light. South Africa is a totally different scenario. In South Africa, so-called reconciliation happened after the struggle was won by the oppressed. Apartheid was brought to an end. Democracy prevailed. And even in South Africa, now, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in particular is critiqued because it was a political decision to go down the path of truth and reconciliation, which was at the cost of accountability. It was a political decision. When apartheid came to an end, those leaders of the ANC chose that they would put away accountability because the political process has won. In Sri Lanka, we don't have that. In fact, it's the complete opposite. The people who consider themselves oppressed continue that operation. It's a victor's peace where we have, with regards to accountability, a complete denial, not only by government, but also with regards to various other institutions that have been put in place to show the world that there is transitional justice processes going on, like the OMP, like the Office of Reparations. The OMP, I think some other of my colleagues also brought it up and brought it up to the notice of the Honourable Minister, where the head of the OMP had made some remarkably blunt statements with regards to exposing the true intent of the government, which is basically a complete denial. It is essentially a foreign relations exercise. So it is in this context, Honourable Presiding Member, that we have to sort of see the President's most recent announcement calling the Tamil parties for negotiations with regards to finding a political settlement to the problem. Now that is probably the most important element. If this perception based on past realities is to be different, Now, the President, more than anybody else, I've said this previously in this House, knows that if true reconciliation is to happen, he must be honest. The Honourable Minister also knows this. He must be honest in going before the Sinhalese people and telling them, I say, look, 75 years of ethnic conflict has only ruined this country. We have made enemies within, and if we don't resolve this problem, this is going to get worse. We are in a political crisis, we are in an economic crisis. We can't be going on like this. And look, whatever we said in the past, we're telling you now, the truth is that the only way the ethnic problem can be solved is by going beyond a unitary state. Is by accepting that a federal solution is the only way. And that federalism is not separation. The Honourable Minister knows that more than anybody else. He's a lawyer. There are enough safeguards that you can bring in constitutionally, where once the Tamil ethnic conflict is resolved, where Sri Lanka recognizes its plurinational nature, then the need for secession will be given up even by the Tamil people. You can have those constitutional guarantees as well. But no. So if we are to take that invitation seriously, Honourable Presiding Member, 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
If we are to take that invitation seriously, Honourable Presiding Member, then our party's view is that the President must in fact come out and say what I just said. He must tell the Sinhalese people that we have to go beyond the unitary state, otherwise there is no solution to the ethnic problem. And he must tell the world that these negotiations will be on the basis of federalism. And in the course of those negotiations, he will also ensure that whilst the Tamil national question is resolved to the satisfaction of the Tamil people and the Muslims and the upcountry Tamils, that the Sinhalese people's biggest fear probably of secession through the resolution of the Tamil national question will be addressed. Constitutional guarantees through the resolution of the Tamil national question will be got from the Tamils and others, whoever it may be. But without doing that, Honourable Presiding Member, to go and sit at negotiations, in my view, is yet another exercise of time buying. And that is why, Honourable Presiding Member, I ask my colleagues who represent the northeast of the TNA and Mr. Honourable Justice Vigneswaran not to rush. This President needs legitimacy. He needs to show that everybody is engaging with him. For him, that's the most important thing. And whilst I am not against engaging, for as long as certain barriers are gone beyond, we can't be fooled again and again. And for that to happen, if the President does not give these assurances, not just to the Tamils, but most importantly to the Sinhalese, because we don't want the Sinhalese people to tomorrow get up and say that they were lied to. No solution is going to be sustainable if the Sinhalese people feel that they were lied to. I truly believe that if we are honest, whether it be federal or whatever, if we are honest to the people and explain to them the reality, then they will come on board. But without those assurances being given, I appeal to my colleagues who represent the Northeast not to rush. This is an opportunity that the President must prove his bona fides, if not the consequences of those members of Parliament who represent the Northeast from the people of the Northeast will be very, very similar to how the people in the South reacted. Thank you, sir.